Welcome to my graveyard. My name is John Grande, and I'm live in living color here with you on the Ram Nation Radio app, Facebook Live, Instagram Live. How we all doing? I hope we're doing Gucci. Spring break is upon us, ladies and gentlemen. I have almost every producer that's ever produced anything worth anything on the other side of the glass today. Miranda's chomping on a burrito. She has not been here all season long. Tyler's sitting here looking beautiful as usual with his Dragon Ball Z shirt. Matt's here helping Francine with her homework because Matt can only do that. And of course, we have the legendary Joe chilling like a villain like Bob Dylan over here, rocking the Tuesday night intro. I appreciate that. Thank you all, my producers. I really do appreciate it. But we are here today. It's spring break. There's no better way to kick it off than by making a little bit of history, ladies and gentlemen. But what by history I mean is I'm doing the longest show in the history of Ram Nation Radio today. That is right. I'm not going 1 hour. I'm not going hour 15, hour 30, hour 45. No, I am going 2 whole hours on the Ram Nation Radio. Yes, history will be made. And Brandon Cancelleri will actually join me in hour number 2. He will come on and we'll talk a little bit of It Follows. But until then, for the first hour plus, I'm going to be talking about the man of your dreams. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about Matt Rodriguez. No, I am talking about one Mr. Freddy Krueger. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. That is the topic for today. I'm going to be reviewing all of the films in order. Joe, have a nice break, my friend. Joe is leaving. He just had to help out with the intro. By the way, how do I sound? Do I sound like I'm talking out of a muffler again? They're going to check. But yeah, man, I've been wanting to do this for a long time because the Elm Street series, the Elm Street franchise, is one of my all-time favorite horror movie series. Like, it's definitely, I would say, in the top 3 with Halloween and Friday the 13th. And I'd say it's right up there with Sleepaway Camp 1, 2, and 3 as well. And we always forget about Part 4. But, yeah, I wanted to just discuss these movies and my thoughts on these movies and give my 2 cents as to why I enjoy these flicks so much. And, yeah, so without further ado, I'm going to get into it. On Nightmare on Elm Street Retrospective. I got the Powerade here to stay awake. Gonna be chilling. I got the box set here. If you can't, I just all fell out on me. But I got this box set here. I don't know how well y'all can see that. This is an awesome box set, by the way. It's actually from 1999. It's a 20-year-old box set. I just got it new a couple weeks back. Comes with this cool little booklet that fell out and hit me in the face. But yeah, man, this is an awesome box set. I recommend you get this over the Blu-rays because the Blu-ray edition, it's just awful. It's just like one big case. They've got each movie, like they have 2 movies to a disc, and like that's just like not cool. I'm not cool with the doing 2 movies to a disc, especially when it's Blu-ray. Like go all out like this DVD company did with this because they really went all out to go with the original poster art, with individual editions, with trivia tracks, with booklets, with a bonus features DVD, actually, which is really cool. The Nightmare on Elm Street encyclopedia. This is really badass. This is like the precursor to what Never Sleep Again would become, which is a really great documentary. I don't have it on me, but that's a fantastic documentary if you want to know anything about anything when it comes to the Nightmare on Elm Street series. But of course, it started all with the original, which I'm not going to spend too long on. This is the original Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street. I did an entire episode on this with my good friend Brandon, who's going to be on the show today. So coincidentally, he's going to be part of both Nightmare episodes. But there's really nothing more I could say about this movie that has not been said. This is a classic horror movie, probably in my top 5. I'd say number 4 on my all-time favorite horror movies list. I love this movie that much. I think it's simply perfect. Just a great performance from Heather Langenkamp as the lead. A really, truly scary movie where the genre would become goofy in the next 5 years. Thank you, Miranda. Miranda says the sound's good. The genre would become goofy not too long after this, maybe like 2-3 years after this. And like this was one of the last real terrifying slashers that really broke new ground and kicked ass and took names and all that good stuff that we want in horror films. And I just think it's perfection. I don't have any problems with this movie. I really don't. I know a lot of people hate the ending, but it's I think it's a perfect movie all around. I think it's Wes Craven's masterpiece. And honestly, if you want to see my full in-depth thoughts, like we can go by scene in depth with this movie on the episode I was with Brandon. Just tell me. I'll send you the link to it if you have not watched that already. But the original Nightmare on Elm Street, absolute all-time classic. So that is Elm Street 1. Here's where we'll start getting more in depth, ladies and gentlemen. I promise. I won't just skim through all of these. Granted, I have to fill a lot of time, so I really can't skim through these. But that brings me to a very controversial film, a film that I have grown to really, really enjoy over the years. I know a lot of people hate this movie. I know it has a lot of homoerotic nature in it, and I know a lot of people that they can't get past that fact, and this movie kind of breaks some rules that the original set up, and I don't know, people kind of hate it for that, but I've always kind of loved this one, and it is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Freddy's Revenge. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, from 1985, directed by Jack Shoulder, written by, I always get his name wrong, David Chaskin. David Chaskin, yes. Written by David Chaskin. I really enjoy this movie. I think this is a really underrated horror flick that a lot of people, for whatever reason, just don't get into this one. They say it's one of the worst, if not the worst, of the entire franchise, and I kind of beg to differ with that. Getting into what I mean, this movie is just absolutely fantastic. I just love this film. It basically tells the story of Mark Patton, who plays Jesse, and he's just moved into the house from the original film. This is like 5 years later, and slowly but surely he understands that weird things are going on, and maybe, just maybe, Fred Krueger is possessing him in his dreams and trying to use him to kill other people. And right off the bat, this is a dark movie. I love how dark this film is. It's just so, like, it feels so forbidden. It feels so raw, like just raw. And in a way that I feel like it's even more dark than the original film. Like, I think the original film, as classic as it is, as dark as it can be, I think this movie's even darker. You have, of course, you have a really good cast in this movie as well. You have Kim Myers playing the girlfriend character, Robert Russler, who's an awesome 80s character actor. He was in stuff like Vamp a couple years after this, and then they come back. A really good underrated Stephen King adaptation. He plays like his too close for comfort best friend. That's the thing that really gets a lot of the people that watch this movie. It's the homosexual, I won't even say undertones. It's like overtones. This movie is like very outwardly in your face homosexual, and I just personally don't have a problem with that being a part of the theme, or if it was a message, if it's an underlying message that the writer was going for, because I do know the writer was gay, and Mark Patton, the lead actor, just happened to be gay too. However, he had not admitted it at this point. But man, I think some of the dream sequences just creep me out in this one. Like, there's one of the first ones is the movie opens and they're on a school bus, and Robert Englund's actually driving the bus. You can tell it's Robert Englund out of the Freddy makeup, of course. And he's driving the school bus, and it's just Jesse and these two girls, and they're kind of making fun of him and stuff like that, and poking fun and laughing at him because he's weird or whatever. And all of a sudden, the driver just blows past one of these girls, stops. And she's like, "Driver, that was my stop. Driver, stop." And all of a sudden, it just goes full throttle, and they just drive off the road. And it is an insanely scary sequence, I think. Like, they end up in the middle of, like, this dirt kind of deserty area, and the bus is actually on, like, this rock pillar teetering back and forth, and if it falls, everyone's going to die aboard. And then, of course, Freddy gets on, and Freddy's, like, shaking the bus and toying with them. And this is, like, long before, well, I guess not long before, but this is definitely before Freddy became more lighthearted and fun with the one-liners. Like, there are one-liners in this movie, but they're creepy and scary one-liners. Like, he is just absolutely toying with them before he goes in for the kill. And they are screaming, terrified, all hugging each other, crying. I mean, that's a scary opening to a film. Like, I can't think of too many openings. I can't think of, sorry, Matt's toying with me with those eyes over there. We made eye contact. It was really awkward as hell when I'm trying to talk about something that's uber scary and serious. But man, I think it's just a terrifying way to open your film. And of course, Jesse wakes up and just covered in sweat and afraid and all these things. And man, I just love that opening scene. I think it's really good. There's another where Jesse is in the house late night just getting a drink, and you think he can't sleep, he's getting a drink, and he sees the boiler room in the basement, and the light turns on, and Freddy grabs his glove out of there and kind of like turns and makes eye contact with him in the window. He goes down there to see nothing, runs back up the steps, and Freddy's pulling on the door, and he's screaming for his father. And as soon as he lets go, he turns, and Freddy's right there. And he's like, Jesse, 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 please understand that you've got the body, and I've got the brain. And he rips off, like, the top of his head, and you can just see his brain, like, pulsating. And Jesse screams. I know he screams like a girl. I know a lot of people make fun of him. Oh, he screams like a girl. Yo, I would scream like a girl, too, all right? I would scream like a girl too if Freddy Krueger was in my goddamn room and ripped his head off to expose his brain. That would scare the living bejesus out of me too. I would scream like a chick as well. And like, I think a lot of people just kind of miss that part. I think they all just go, oh well, it's gay. This movie's gay. It's too homoerotic or whatever. But like those two nightmare sequences alone are just so dark, and I'd say they're even darker than the original film. Again, I don't think every Freddy ever got darker than in this movie. I just think he's so terrifying and so in the shadows. And a fun fact about this one, Robert Englund was not initially going to play Freddy Krueger, and I know a lot of people actually don't know this, but Robert Englund at the time of this movie was doing something else, and Jack Shoulder was like, we have to get him back. And they did film a scene. There is a scene in this movie where it's not Robert Englund as Freddy. A lot of people don't even realize that. But the shower scene where Jesse's coach, Coach Schneider, is killed, that's not Robert Englund playing Freddy. That's another stuntman, and they've never released what his name is, who he was, if he ever went on to do anything else. But you could see there's a scene. It's badass from the top half up. It's like this shadow and kind of mist as Freddy kind of wanders into the screen. And if you look at it, the bottom half, the reason I say it's top heavy cool is because, of course, it's the legendary Freddy makeup and that legendary character in the shadow. But the way the guy is walking is so awkward. Like, I don't understand. I've never seen somebody walk more awkward in my life. Watch that scene, slow it down. He's walking like he's like walking on eggshells or something. Like, it's so strange. I noticed that every time I watch it ever since I found out that was not Robert Englund. And of course they quickly cut that scene. That's the only scene. It's like a 2-second, blink and you miss it type of scene, but Robert Englund is not Freddy in that scene. It's the only time, I think, up until the remake where somebody else played Freddy Krueger that wasn't Robert Englund. And I don't know. I really enjoyed the weird scenes in this movie too, like with the gym class, like they're playing softball, kind of reminiscent of Sleepaway Camp, which came out a few years earlier than this. And you have this kind of fun banter between Robert Russler and Mark Patton. And how you doing with your girl? And he's like, what do you mean? He goes, well, are you mounting her nightly or what? Like, and he's just like, what, Grady? We're not friends, man. And he's like, man, I'm just trying to make conversation. All right. There's just a weird scene where he falls asleep in class and the snake is on Mark Patton's character. And Robert Russler, I guess you're supposed to suppose Robert Russler put it there, and Mark Patton, everyone's laughing at Mark Patton. He kind of just flips off Robert Russler, and he just pops, like just laughs out of his shoes. And I don't know, I just love there's not too many scenes with them, but they had great chemistry together, I thought. I credit a lot of that to Robert Russler. I think he's a fantastic actor. Mark Patton sadly didn't go on to do much, but I'll be honest, I think Mark Patton does a fantastic job in this movie. I think he's like, a lot of people give him crap, and like I really would love to know why. I mean, it's because he screams like a girl, really? Like, I would scream like a girl too, man. I would be absolutely terrified if Fred Krueger was in my house ripping his head off his body and trying to force me to kill people, because that's what he's basically doing in this movie. He's trying to use Jesse's body in order to claim more victims so Freddy can get more power and come into the real world. And so there, for instance, there's a scene where Freddy kind of possesses Jesse to walk into his sister's room. His sister, he has a little sister, maybe like 7 or 8, and he's like, oh, I'm just tucking you in. And you see when he goes to put the covers on her, he has Freddy's glove on, and he's just mortified. And the next day he tells Kim Myers, he's like, last night you tried to make me kill my sister. Like, that's dark, man. Go kill your 7, 8-year-old sister so I can come back in the real world. Like, that's pushing boundaries there. I mean, granted, they don't go there, they don't have them do it, but it's the idea. That's the thing with horror back in the day, like, especially in like the year like 1985, you can just throw an idea idea like that out there, and people would buy that hook, line, and sinker and really enjoy something like that. And I personally am one of them. I really enjoy that scene. I think it's actually like terrifying because it made me think, like, I have a sister. Like, what if somebody possessed me to try to do something like that? Like, what would my reaction be? And obviously the answer is I'd be terrified, shocked, and afraid, just like everybody else. And I think it's a really cool little story and tale. Does it break rules of the original? Yes. But at the same time, would you have rather have seen them do the same movie? Like, would you have rather have seen them copy it? Like, just tone up? Like, this is one of those movies, it's a sequel. It doesn't tone up the violence. It tones up the darkness. And I really appreciate that. Like Halloween 2, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Probably number 6 on the top 10 list. That movie, it's great, and I like it, but it tones up everything that made the original. Like, let's tone up the kills, let's tone up the gore, let's tone up the violence, let's tone up, Michael and Laurie, and tone up Loomis's lines and all the things. It's really the original Halloween turned up to 11. And that's why I really love that film. However, I don't know if that would have worked with Elm Street. I think the best case scenario is actually what they did, because they were like, yo, listen, we ain't going to top this past movie. And if we just do the same thing where, it's a bunch of kids on the street again, getting picked off one by one again, it's a final girl again, and like, it just would have never, ever worked, I don't think. I think it would have been a lot similar to what we got with the remake. We'll go there. Because that's really the only movie that follows the formula of the original movie. If you look at all these movies, like you have Dream Powers in the next two. That wasn't in the original movie, but people don't bitch about that. Like, I just don't understand. Like, some like when you do something different, people complain, and then when you copy, people complain. So, like, I don't understand, what did you want different? This movie was like, no, we're not going to go the gore route. We're going to go the darkness route. We're going to force him to kill people. And yeah, there's some goofy stuff in this movie. I'm not saying that it isn't all like, completely serious. There's an exploding parakeet in this movie. I swear to God that happens. Like, they're in the living room, and Clu Gulager, who's also in this, who did Return of the Living Dead in the same year. They're all sitting in the living room, and this parakeet they have just flies out of the cage, starts attacking everybody, and just bursts into flames. And like, I will be lying if I didn't say that makes me crack up every single time. That's a riot, that scene. Of course, the scene where Jesse cleans his room, that's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a horror movie, because it's just so uncomfortably gay, but like, it's so goddamn funny at the same time. Like, I really enjoy that scene because you just don't expect that. Like, that song, Touch Me, Baby, Drive Me Crazy. Like, that is classic, man. He's just running around his room and closing the drawers with his ass. Like, it's just so uncomfortable, but man, it's funny. I love this film. I really don't understand the hate. And of course, I can't really move on from this without talking about the legendary pool scene. I love that scene. A lot of people hate it, but I think it's so fantastic. Eventually, Jesse, he kills Robert Russler's character, which is another terrifying scene as Freddy bursts out of Jesse. Amazing animatronic work on Jesse's body as Freddy's coming out, like ripping him open. And it's just so badass how Krueger puts his hat on and just smiles at Robert Russler. You know Robert Russler's about to go down. He is freaking out, banging on the door, screaming for his dad. I just love that stuff. I think that is just so terrifying, man. That is a really, really scary scene. And of course, that brings you to the pool party where Jesse's freaking out. Kim Myers trying to calm him down, and oh my gosh, all these things are going on, and you realize that Jesse's now about to be overtaken by Freddy for good. And get out of here, Lacey! Fred Krueger is overtaking me, and Freddy just lights up this party, killing people left and right at this pool party. It's just fantastic. I love. For a minute, everybody thinks everything's cool, and Freddy just jumps out of nowhere, and everybody just screams, and he's cutting, slicing, dicing, slashing. At one point, this guy's like, "It's okay, man. We can talk it out, man. It's okay." And he walks up to him, and Freddy goes, "Help yourself." I can't say what he says, but he says, "Help yourself," and he throws him away, and then he kind of walks into the bushes and just bursts into flames. And Kim Myers is like, "I know what to do." And she drives to the old boiler room where she finds him and kind of convinces Jesse to fight Freddy back for his own body, and saying that you can't let him control you. You have to fight him yourself. You have to fight your own battles. And I just love this movie. I think that was just such a really cool direction to go with the franchise. I don't know. I personally just always really enjoyed that, always really dug that. And I don't really understand why people don't. I love this film. I think it's fantastic. I love the kills. I love the characters. I love the atmosphere. I love the darkness. There's really not much I don't like about this movie. Of course, it can be a little goofy from time to time, but like I think when you're trying to watch dark Freddy movies, you go with the original and you go with part 2. I think this is a really, really good dark Freddy film. If I had to rate this one, I'm going to go high. I'm going to go like 8.5 out of 10. Really dig this movie. That's probably a lot higher than anybody would put it, but Freddy's Revenge, I am a huge fan. That brings us to probably the fan favorite film. I think everybody pretty much unanimously will tell you that this is their favorite one, and if it's not their favorite one, it's definitely their second favorite one. Not my second or first favorite, but still a damn good movie, and that is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors. Yes, Dokken did the legendary theme song. That's what we'll end the show with at 4 o'clock today. I have that song playing. It's going to play. It's going to be an awesome way to end this show and start spring break. But they brought on Chuck Russell to actually direct this film, who went on to make awesome flicks like The Mask. He's just an awesome director. And also, a guy that helped with the script is Frank Darabont, who actually went on to make such classics as The Shawshank Redemption, such classics as The Green Mile, such classics as The Mist. Well, not as much of that one as the other two. But Frank Darabont went on to have an amazing career. And I just love that he kind of got part of his start here with Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors. And, of course, you have Patricia Arquette, who plays the lead character, and you just have an amazing goddamn cast. Like Lawrence Fishburne is in this. Granted, it's a really nothing role. Let's see. You have John Saxon in this film. You have, of course, Ken Sagos as Kincaid. I always forget Joey's name in real life. Rodney Eastman. Rodney Eastman is Joey. Jennifer Rubin, who went on to be in that classic movie Bad Dreams. I think that was either a year before or a year after this. I don't really remember. But Jennifer Rubin from Bad Dreams as Taryn. I just think this is a great imaginative movie, because coming off part 2, even though it seems like it's not this way nowadays, when part 2 came out, this movie actually made a lot of money. Like, this movie was a huge hit. It doubled what the original Nightmare did, and it was a big, like, people liked it. It wasn't critically hated like it is now. This is one of those movies that just hasn't aged well with people for whatever reason. So coming off that movie and moving into this movie, you couldn't really have two polar opposite movies in the same franchise, especially two movies in the same franchise that are right next to each other in chronology. This movie is just imaginative. This movie's fun. This movie has amazing character moments, and this movie really tones the darkness out. It almost tones it out. It's not really dark Freddy anymore. It's fun Freddy. And this is really where the one-liners and all that stuff began to start, the goofy one-liners. Of course, we'll get into those, but I'll basically get into a little bit of the plot. Patricia Arquette's character, the opening scene, she's making, trying to stay awake, and that classic Dokken song, Into the Fire, is playing in the background as the credits kind of start to begin to appear on the screen. And her mom walks in, and she has this awful dream sequence, and it basically Freddy makes it look like she cut her own wrists. So her mom admits her to like an institution, and when she gets there, you meet all these colorful characters: Kincaid, Joey, Taryn, the Poindexter guy, the Dream, the Wizard Master. That's it. And they're all so quirky, but man, they're also damn likable. This is I would say. Wow, it's really close. I would have to say this is the best movie in the series for characters. This has fantastic characters. You have all these kids that dream about the same guy, and they're all freaked out by it. Nobody will really hear their cries. Nobody will really listen to them until they bring in Heather Langenkamp from the original film. Heather Langenkamp is brought on, and she sits down with them. And at first, they're all passive and submissive of her, and they're like, "Oh, well, you don't know what we're going through." And she says he wears a dark brown hat, a dirty old Christmas sweater, and has finger knives for hand. And they all just kind of look at each other like, she's had the dreams too. Oh my gosh. And she's like, we're going to work our way through this. I'm going to try to get you Hypnosil, which is basically this pill you can take and not dream anymore. And I just think that's a fantastic idea to kind of combat Freddy. Just take some medication, take one a day, keep Freddy away, kind of thing. And I just love each character has their own kind of neck. Like there's one point where they want to hypnotize them all, and she's like, I think this will work, and like we can all discover our dream powers. And of course Rodney Eastman doesn't talk much in real life, and you eventually find out his power is he has this crazy scream in the dream. Kincaid is super strong. Taryn is beautiful, and she puts the old pocket knives out and bad. I just love that. Like she's just having a blast with this role, and she's super hot. She's playing like an ex-junkie type of character. They all have like something to them. There's all like that little like the slasher tropes to their character. Like you don't have the jock character in there, but like you have the nerd, you have the minority, you have the junkie, you have the lead, you have like the kid that doesn't talk. Like you have all these guys. The chick that wants to be an actress who gets probably the best death possibly in the entire series. Of course, the scene where she's watching TV late and Lawrence Fishburne's like, listen, you got to go to bed. And she's like, no, I'm studying to be an actress, okay? And he's like, all right, I'll give you 10 more minutes. She's like, all right. Next thing you know, she's watching the Dick Cavett show, and Zsa Zsa Gabor is on there. And he's like, can I ask you something? And she's like, yeah. He goes, who gives up what you think? And he kills her, and she's just like in shock, and she kind of walks up to the TV sprouts arms, grabs her, pulls her up, and then Freddy's head pops out. Amazing effects work. I would love to know how they did this. Like it's so visually stunning to the viewer. And of course he kind of picks her up, stares her dead in the eye, and welcome to prime time, bitch, and puts her head through the TV, all big electrocution. And then Lawrence Fishburne kind of just walks back in the room, is just kind of like, really? Like, I left you for 10 minutes and you got killed by Freddy? Goddamn. But I just think that's an awesome kill. One of the best, probably the best one-liner of the series, the best kill of the series. Just a really, really fun kill. And of course, you're learning more and more stuff about Freddy's mother, Amanda Kruger, in this film. And there's a guy that works at the Thing who's friendly with Heather Langenkamp's character, who's trying to figure it out. And he runs into John Saxon at one point, and they realize that, we have to bury Freddy's bones. He never got an eternal resting place. And like while that's going on, you have the Dream Warriors fighting Freddy. And man, just some of the kills and some of the scenes, it's just so damn fun. Like when Taryn battles Freddy, that's awesome stuff. Like they're in a dark alley in her dream, and she's fighting him and stuff. And he's like, I think it's time we get high. And she looks down in her arms, and where she would inject like a needle or whatever, she has like these cups, and they're like, look like they're just like asking for drugs. And like, it's terrifying. Like, that scared the hell out of me when I first saw that. And especially, like, I've never done drugs or anything in my life, but like, I could only imagine how terrifying that would be for someone who has. Like, because that must be like overtly like just a memory in their mind, like that would just creep them out. It's a scary ass scene. And Freddy, of course, he puts his hands up, and he's got all these needles, and he puts them in the holes, and he goes, what a rush. Like classic stuff, man. There's this big old battle between Kincaid, Joey, Heather Langenkamp, and Patricia Arquette. And I just think it's just a blast. This is just such a blast of a movie. I just have so much fun with it. And I think a lot of people have a lot of fun with this one. This is very easy movie to like and get into because it's so fun, because it's so creative and imaginative. And I think that's a big reason why people put this over the original sometimes. Like, I think that's a big reason as to the selling factor of this movie. I think a lot of people just really dig the creativity of this movie, because we really, since this, other than the next film I'm about to talk to in the series, we didn't get a movie that was as creative as this, as groundbreaking as this. And this movie shattered the box office. It did double what Part 2 did. And people just loved it because it was just a fun time at the movies. It was a bunch of misfit kids learning that they were bigger, better, and badder than they ever thought they were. And they're all teaming up together to take on Freddy Krueger. And like, I just love everything about this movie. I think the finale is a lot of fun, where Freddy kind of lures Heather Langenkamp in. He's like, oh, this is daddy, baby. Come to daddy. And she's like, okay. And bam, he gets her with the glove. And that just, every time I seen that, I thought when I first saw it, I was like, she knows it's not her real father, right? Like, she has to know. And she doesn't, and she gets killed. And I just think that's a really, like, I was like, you know, an eye-opening moment. I'm like, wow, they just killed off Heather Langenkamp. That was nuts. Like, I did not see that coming. I thought everyone was going to die except Patricia Arquette and Heather Langenkamp, and we'd move on. But instead, Kincaid survives. Joey survives. Patricia Arquette, Kristen is the character's name, survives. All of them survive and move on to the next movie. And I really liked that. I liked to get more than just a final girl. Like, you had a couple of the other characters survive, too. And the other characters that do die, they put up a fight. They don't just go down like nothing to Freddy Krueger. And I just really like that. I think those are good characters. I think definitely the best movie in the franchise when it comes to characters. I think it's just phenomenal. And of course, look at this goddamn cover art. That is just classic cover art right there. I just think this is amazing. I can't really tell on this camera what you can and can't see, but of course, you have the Dream Warriors walking on Freddy's glove, and they all look like they're ready for battle as they stare into the pits in the eyes of Freddy Krueger. Just an all-time classic. Marionette kills. Just everything about this movie, I think, is just a blast. And I think Chuck Russell really brought a real... I just think an energy to this movie. I think this movie has a great energy, as well with Part 4. When we get into Part 4 with Mr. Rennie Harlan, he brought a great energy to that film as well. I think this is a great movie. I think this is a great watch, and it really does deserve the credit that it gets, because I think it is a fantastic Elm Street film. Dokken doing all that kick-ass music. Freddy at probably one of his finest moments. Just love Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund in this. He's phenomenal, and I think it's a great watch. So, Dream Warriors, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. I'm going to go with an 8 out of 10 on this one. I really, really dig A Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors. Awesome flick. That brings me to one that I love probably more than anybody. I would say this movie is my second favorite of the entire franchise, and a lot of people are just like, huh, like this one? But I do love this movie. It is an all-time classic. Miss Tuesday Night played the intro for you here, ladies and gentlemen. It is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, my second personal favorite of the series. This, again, just a great, energetic movie. I love this movie. Rennie Harlan would come on to direct this, and he would go on to do a lot of good movies. Like, he made Die Hard 2 after this, Cliffhanger after this. He did a lot of good movies. I know he's pretty notable now. For the past, 10 years or so, he hasn't really made anything that much worth a damn. But, man, I think Rennie Harlan just does a really, really good job directing this movie. I think he has a good time with it. Of course, you have Kristen. She comes back, but it's not Patricia Arquette. It's Tuesday Night, who is kick-ass, just as kick-ass. I really like Tuesday Night. And Kincaid and Joey. And I guess you're about a year or so removed from Dream Warriors. They're all going to school, and they realize that the boiler room has run cold. Like, Kristen's dragging them into her dreams and saying, I think he's coming back. I think he's coming back. And they put her hand on the boiler room heater, and he's like, Kristen, it's cold. Listen, we all have better things to be dreaming about. Stop pulling us into your dreams. You're just bugging. Please stop. Like, we've moved on from him. We've gotten rid of Freddy Krueger. And, of course, they end up being wrong as Freddy comes back in Kincaid's dream. And I just think this is an awesome way for a character to go out from the previous film. A lot of people hate that he dies here. And, yeah, I loved the character. I didn't want to see him die either, but I don't think there's a more fitting, a character that you like. If a character you like is going to die, I would like it to be like this. He's in this dream, and it's like a junkyard, and all these cars and stuff, and his dog is there, and his dog, inadvertently kind of resurrects Freddy Krueger. And, of course, you have the shot that pans up from Freddy all the way to his face where he says, "You shouldn't have buried me. I wasn't dead yet." And he's pushing cars on Freddy, trying to fight Freddy back. And Freddy eventually gets him, stabs him right in the stomach, and makes eye contact with him. And he says, and Kincaid has this great final line. He says, "I'll see you in hell." And Freddy goes, "Tell him Freddy sent you." Just epic. That's how you have your character go out, man. That is just an excellent scene. And, of course, Joey is because he's kind of a perv, Joey. He's in this waterbed. And next thing you know, you see this model underneath his waterbed in his dream. And she's, trying to get through. And, I always that's an amazing shot, too. How did they film that? Today it would just be all CG and I'd just roll my eyes. This looks amazing. I would say 87, 88, even going on to like maybe in 1990, that was the best practical effects ever looked. And the sad thing is that's when the MPAA was at their most like prude and most let's cut everything for no goddamn reason. It makes no sense to me at all. Never did, never will. And I just love that effect. I think that's an amazing effect. And of course, he kind of gets the bed ripped open, and it's Freddy. And Freddy's like looking at him. He goes, "How is this for a wet dream?" Kills him, and you're just like, "Oh my god!" Like you just killed the survivors of the previous film, man. And that's where you're introduced to Alice, who's played by Lisa Wilcox, who at the beginning of the movie, and I'm a huge mark for Alice, probably my favorite character of the series other than Freddy Krueger, of course. Yeah, I'd even put her ahead of Heather Langenkamp's character. You meet Alice and she's so timid and she's so shy and she's nothing. Like she hasn't grown at all. She's totally just this nothing character. It seems like at first, a daydreamer really, and I could relate to that. I'm a daydreamer myself. I would dare to say, and she's just nothing at the beginning of this movie, and then you meet all her friends and characters. Her brother, played by Andras Jones, Rick, who I think is just adds such a good element to this movie. I love that character. Andras Jones should have been in more movies. I know he was in the Slime Bowl Ball-orama the year before this, and I love that movie as well. But man, he's just a lot of fun in this. He has like this kind of line where he says it a few times in the movie. He's like, "Hello, baby." Like, I don't know how he does it, man. He's just so damn catchy with it, and I just really, really enjoy his character and his energy. I think he's great. You meet this one chick she has a problem with bugs. She doesn't like bugs. This one Poindexter girl who has asthma. You meet this kind of jock character named Dan, who she has a big crush on, who looks exactly like Eli Manning, which is scary because in this movie he actually plays like the high school team quarterback, which I found super eerie. I was like, you playing the high school team quarterback and you look like an actual quarterback in the NFL. That's a little weird. Like I thought that was very strange, but super cool at the same time. And then, you're introduced to all these colorful characters. And at first you're just like, I don't know if I like these characters as much as the ones in Dream Warriors. And of course, Kristen's still alive and she's freaking out. And she's telling them all, like, listen, he's coming. He's going to come to try to get you all. He's going to get me. And if he gets me, he's going to get all of you. And so Freddy kills her, and before he does, Kristen pulls Lisa Wilcox into her dream. And she says, listen, I'm giving you all my power. You're going to have to take care of him yourself, as Tuesday Night kind of burns up in the boiler room. Another really great effect. And Lisa Wilcox wakes up and she's just stunned by this and she doesn't know what's going on. And she runs to Kristen's house with Andras Jones, and Kristen's house is on fire, like her room's on fire, and they find her. Another just amazing like effect and like a really heartfelt scene for Andras Jones's character because they were like dating in the movie. And you just feel so bad. You're just like, oh my God, like she's gone. Like that's the end of Kristen, who we really grew to like in the part 3. And it's a bummer, man, when Kristen goes. It's a bummer when all 3 of them go. But I think in the essence of them going, they were able to build the new character, and I'll get there towards the end. But Freddy's just again, he's a lot of fun in this movie. I always loved the badass school scene where they're all in class taking a test, and the nerdy girl who has the inhaler, she just starts seeing stuff on her paper being written. She's like, huh? Like, what's going on? And the next thing you know, she can't get out of her chair. And Lisa Wilcox is looking on. Alice is looking on. She's like, what's wrong, Sheila? What's wrong? And they both look up, and their teacher is no longer there. Instead, it is Mr. Krueger with his feet up, and he's peeling an apple with, of course, his finger knife hands. And oh my God, it is so classic Freddy. I love that kill scene. I love that scene because it's just the perfect build to a kill. Like you're just sitting here like, oh my God, she is so screwed. And Freddy gets up, takes his hat off, kind of walks over to her somberly, and he goes, "Wanna suck face?" And he makes out with her and pretty much sucks the soul out of her till she's like nothing in the dream. unbelievably cool death scene and makeup effect, and he throws her like lifeless carcass back down and goes, "You flunk." I just love that, man. That is a riot. Not only is that a funny scene, it's actually kind of terrifying. And then in the class, everyone just assumes, oh, she had an asthma attack. Like that's how they write her character off. And I thought that's so smart to kind of pin it on asthma instead of Freddy. Like I thought that was a really smart way to go about things. And man, I just thought, again, that's another creativity thing that Rennie Harlin brought to this movie. I know this was written by a Brian Helgeland, I believe. Yeah, this was written by a Brian Helgeland, who went on to do some other stuff too. He didn't do. He had a pretty decent career, but I think he just has a fun job with the kills. Like they really should have brought him back for the following movies because he just really got the formula of fun Freddy. I think better than anybody did before or after. You have, of course, Andres Jones' character. He's like a karate kung fu guy, and that classic Dramarama song, settle down, and he's like doing all this kung fu karate and stuff, and I just love his death scene too. His is like one of the few death scenes where Freddy's not even in it. He just kind of wakes up in his dream. He goes down this elevator in his dream, and it opens up. It's like a dojo, and he's like, what is going on? Then he walks out, and like Freddy's invisible, and he's kicking Freddy's ass, like the invisible Freddy's ass and stuff, and I'm like, yo, this is badass. And he kicks the glove off, and he thinks he's won the war. He's like, oh, I beat you, Freddy. I beat you. You know, you killed my girlfriend. I'm going to get retribution. And he's like, oh, yeah? All of a sudden, you see Freddy's go fly into his chest. And Andres Jones' character goes, which that, of all the deaths in this movie, that's the one I always get most upset about because I wanted him to live like so bad. I just loved his character. Of course, you have that muscly girl who hates bugs. She's lifting weights in one scene, and Freddy shows up, and he's pushing down because she's like bench pressing, and he's pushing down, and she's like, and all of a sudden he pushes her arms down, and both her arms just snap in that position, and you're just like, oh my god! Like to this day, one of the most amazing practical effect arm breaks I've ever seen in a movie. And then these crazy tentacles just start flying out, and you realize that she's becoming a bug, and she ends up in this like roach motel that Freddy has, and he's kind of looking in. Unbelievable makeup effects. I want to say it was K&B, but I could be wrong here. I'm not sure who did the effects for this one. I think K&B had something to do with this. They helped out or something. It might have been Kevin Yeager. It doesn't say on the back of this, but whoever did the makeup effects for this movie just knocked it out of the park. I love that scene. I think that's an incredible kill as she gets her face stuck in this goo in the Roach Motel. I mean, oh my God, like that is just brutal to watch, man. I have a hard time getting through watching that scene. It's just so disgusting and disturbing and terrifying. And yes, it is a lighthearted like type of kill, but man, it's at the same time it's terrifying. And that's why I think this movie has a really good balance of that. I think it really balances out the humor and the horror almost to perfection. I really, really enjoy the balance in this movie because there are parts where I laugh out loud and there are parts where I kind of cover my mouth in horror. That's not easy to do, but Rennie Harlin was able to do that in this movie. And pretty much one by one, they're all getting picked off and stuff, and Alice is slowly but surely learning about this thing called the Dream Master, and she slowly but surely, after each one of her friends die, she almost gains an ability that they had. Like when her smart Poindexter asthma friend dies, she becomes smarter and starts like quoting her, saying stuff that Sheila used to say. When her badass like strong friend dies, she becomes a little bit stronger. When her brother dies, she learns like karate. Now she's awesome at karate. And it's these little steps that she kind of gains from each friend that ultimately has her grow into the end of the movie where she takes on Freddy Krueger in, I think, the best finale of the series. Of course, you have that awesome scene where she's getting ready before this. She's putting all of her friend's stuff on, like her friend's bandana, her friend's leather jacket, combat boots, and you have that awesome kick-ass 80s like getting ready combat song. It goes like down, and she's like going back and forth with these nunchucks, putting clothes on, looking in the mirror, putting her hair back, and then the epic F&A. I love that. That's if there's an 80s scene, if there's a scene that's more 80s than that, I would dare you show that to me because like it's one of the best, most 80s scenes I've ever seen in my life. It's just fantastic. And you realize you're like this, and then Alice kind of confronts Freddy. She's toe to toe with him, and they're in this like old school church. And I just love the opening line where Freddy walks in and he kind of puts his arms out. He goes, "Welcome to Wonderland, Alice." And she's just kind of staring him down, and you realize she's like, this girl is really grown. You know, and that's something that a lot of slasher characters, they don't really do. Like, for instance, like Heather Langenkamp in the original film, I don't know if she grows as much as she was just tough to begin with. Like, it's more of a Jamie Lee in Halloween type of growth, where she starts out the prude girl who can't ask old Ben Tramer to the prom, and then by the end of the movie, she's taking on the shape and kicking his ass. Like, it's that type of growth. But to see it in this part of the 80s, 10 years after a movie like Halloween, it hadn't been done like that in a while. It's usually, oh, okay, this is our final girl. Like Kristen's the same character throughout the third movie and into this movie. Like, she never really grows. She never really takes something from somebody else and is like, oh, I'm going to use this to my benefit. I'm going to use this to my advantage. Not really. That's not really how that goes with that character. But with the Lisa Wilcox Alice character, it's exactly how it goes. And man, I just love that growth. I love that she kind of moves on, and she kind of takes all these things that her friends died for and uses them to her advantage. And she has this awesome kick-ass fight with Freddy Krueger in this church. She's kicking him, punching him, and at first he's no-selling it, kind of laughing at her, and then she hits him with like this crazy kick to the face, and then all of a sudden he's like, all right, you come to fight, let's go. And there's just this awesome battle between heroine and villain, and it's Robert Englund at his best, I think. And I think the two of them just really, really had good chemistry on screen. Just an awesome battle. And Freddy reveals that he says to her, "You have their power, but I have their souls." And he kind of opens his chest, and all these souls are pushing against his body, like screaming and stuff. And Alice realizes the only way to defeat Freddy is for evil to see itself. And she kind of just puts this mirror, this kind of like broken glass, so he'll see the reflection of himself. And he screams, and all the souls kind of just rip him apart. That's awesome. Like, I love that death scene. I think that is the best like final death scene for Freddy in any of the movies. It's so cool because it's almost like, yeah, he killed them, but their souls kind of end up in essence killing and taking care of him with the help of Lisa Wilcox. So it's their power and their souls, and Lisa Wilcox growing and coming into her own as a final girl, kicking Freddy's ass, taking Freddy's name, and winning and kicking, and that's it. And I just think that it's something that I love. I really am a sucker for stuff like that. And I think Lisa Wilcox really pulls it off, because at first, like I said, she's this shy, like she couldn't harm anybody, like your Pinky is more tough than her. And by the end of the movie, she's battling it out with the toughest dog in the yard in Freddy Krueger. I just absolutely think that's brilliant filmmaking, brilliant storytelling, and I think Lisa Wilcox pulled it off as the final girl. I really, really like her in this. Again, great dream sequences. The one in the movie theater is really cool. The ones in the beginning, the dream in the waterbed, I think that's fantastic. The one in the ginormous junkyard. I just love this movie. I think it has really good dream sequences, a really good direction from Rennie Harlan, and I would say this is my favorite Rennie Harlan film, just to throw that out there. And I just love it. I think it's just a fantastic time. I think it's a really, really fun Elm Street movie. This movie, it actually topped off the rest of the series. No movie in the franchise before or since then has made this much money as this one. I think this movie made like close to $50 million, which is absolutely amazing considering the budget they probably had. And Robert Englund has gone on to call this the MTV version of Nightmare on Elm Street. And that's totally fitting, because it is. It's fun. It's 80s. It's got some good kills in it. It's got some badass opening music done by Tuesday Night, Running from This Nightmare, which we played in the intro, just an epic song. I just love this film. I think it's a fantastic Elm Street movie, and I think it's my second favorite of the bunch, and for a good reason. I think it's the one I definitely grabbed to watch the most. I've seen this one the most, and I just have a blast with it. So that is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. I'm going to give this one a 9.5 out of 10. Yes, it's a half star away from being a perfect movie. I love this flick, though. So that is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. On to the next two. These two movies, stink. And I'm not even going to be nice or anything like that. These next two movies absolutely stink because coming off the energetic, emotional roller coaster that was A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, they rushed the fifth one out. They rushed it out so quick, like less than a year later. I believe Elm Street debuted in like November of 1988, and then this next film came out in like August of 89. So yeah, it's less than a calendar. Well, it's a calendar year, but it's 10 months after. They waited 10 months to release this movie, and it really screams of we're running out of ideas, and that is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. This movie stinks. Like all caps. This movie stinks. I hate this movie with a passion. This is an awful film. All right. I know when people compare franchises, a lot of people say that all three of them would probably go down after Part 5. Like Friday 5, Halloween 5, Elm Street 5. I love Friday 5. I think Friday 5 is actually one of the best ones in that entire series. I never agreed with that. Halloween 5, I would even say Halloween 5 is better than this movie. I watch Halloween 5 a lot more. It's a lot more watchable. Is it technically better in some aspects? Probably not. It's directed like crap from Dominique Othman and Gerard. But I'll be honest, I could watch that movie over this. This movie stinks. This is a movie where I do agree. This is the start of the downfall of this series. This is an awful idea. You basically have... you bring Lisa Wilcox back, who's my favorite final girl of the series. And what do you do with her? You have her pretty much do nothing in this film. Like, there's nothing for her to really do. Like, basically, she gets pregnant, and through her baby's dreams, Freddy is killing her friends off. It's awful. Like, why would you bring an angle like that into a Nightmare on Elm Street film? Like, why? Like, why? I would love to know why. I just don't really understand the reasoning for bringing something like that into a franchise like this. It just makes no sense. Stephen Hopkins directed this one. He went on to do Predator 2, which I really like. It's a big improvement over this piece of turd. Lost in Space. He also made The Reaping, which is another piece of turd. He's not the greatest. I do think the biggest problem with this movie is the writer, though. Who is the writer? Leslie Boheme did not go on to do too much. And it was an idea from an executive producer named Sarah Risher. And she wanted them to discuss abortion in an Elm Street film. That was her brilliant idea. Well, Freddy's done all these awesome things like fight Dream Warriors and face these upcoming characters that start out small and end up taking him on in his own playground and kicking his ass. And you go from all of that awesomeness, energy, to just a boring, unatmospheric, unscary horror film, and it's just bad. Like, I just think this is a bad film. I put a lot of the blame on Sarah Risher, and to her credit, in that Never Sleep Again documentary, she took a lot of the blame for it. She really, truly took a lot of the blame for this movie. She was like, listen, I'm really sorry. Like, if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what will. Like, the person that came up with the idea for this movie thinks it's a bad movie. I mean, if you like it, whatever. I respect your opinion. I'm not saying that you're crazy or wrong or anything, but man, I just think it's just a lame movie. Yeah, geez, I watched this last night and it's already out of my brain. You have a model. She's a model she's a friend of Alice's, and she's a model, and Freddy stuffs a lot of food in her mouth at the dinner table because she falls asleep at the dinner table with a bunch of people over. Like, really? Like, I've never fallen asleep at the dinner table, especially when I had 30 house guests over. I don't know. That's just me. You have this, oh my God, Kelly Jo Minter, who's an awesome actress. She went on to be in The People in the Stairs. I love Kelly Jo Minter. But you would just have her being an uptight bitch in this movie. Like, she's just complaining and moaning. I don't believe in Freddy. Yo, all your friends are dead. Why do you not believe in Freddy? Like, you literally witnessed 2 of your friends die, and you decided you still don't believe it? And then when she falls asleep in a hot tub, then she believes it. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, this is trash, man. The Dan character, the father of Alice's, I guess, unborn son, he dies. I guess his death scene's the best, but it's so cut in this version. I've seen the unedited version, but man, it's so cut in here where it's just completely forgettable. It's total fart in the wind type of death scene. I just hate this movie. Her friend with the comic books, Super Freddy, and this is just where it became too stupid. Like, this is a stupid film. They're trying to bring like serious themes like abortion into it, and then you have a death scene where it involves a comic book kid who loves comic books and like battles Freddy in the comic book and gets torn up as if he's like a page, like a comic book page by Freddy's Claw and Super Freddy, and Freddy's on a skateboard, and I'm just like somebody shoot me. Like, this is awful. Is there anything positive I can say about this movie? I'm sorry, this movie frustrates the living hell out of me. The only thing positive I could say is maybe since it was so rushed, I think maybe Stephen Hopkins, maybe it could have been even worse. Like, it probably could have been even worse. Like, at least, I guess technically it's well made. Lisa Wilcox does a really good job, I think, again, as Alice. Granted, she has nothing to do. I feel bad for her. And by the way, she should stay blonde, man. That woman blonde is like a gift from God. She is so much better looking as a blonde. Literally the only reason I got through this movie is because she's so hot. Like, I was just watching her and just being like, all right, I love Alice. Alice is good. And that's really the only reason I can get through this movie is for Lisa Wilcox. If it was not for Lisa Wilcox, I think this is an atrocious movie. Yeah, I really don't have that much else to say. I just think it's an awful time. I think it's a movie that screams we were out of ideas. Almost everybody involved does not like this movie. I believe Bob Shea said this is his personal least favorite one. I know Robert Englund originally said Part 2 was his least favorite, but someone told me he just recently said he went back and watched this and said this was the worst one, and I totally agree. Part 2 is miles better in this movie. It has better cast, better direction, a better idea, everything better than that movie. And I will say this is going to be harsh, but I do think Robert Englund kind of phoned this performance in. Like, I think this is a total like I'm phoning this in type of performance for Mr. Robert Englund. I think it's by far his weakest performance as Freddy. I don't know if he was tired, because I know he directed what that movie, I forget the goddamn name of his, like 978 Evil or something like that. He directed that movie like right around the time of this, which is why Leslie Dean went on to be in Part 6, but because she's in that film. But yeah, I think everybody looked tired. Lisa Wilcox, the film, like and the energy that a movies like Dream Warriors and the Dream Master have. Those are like energetic films, whereas this is just a bore and like trying to like be serious at times, and then it's like uber goofy at times. Like, it just doesn't know what it wants to be. I think it's an awful film. I'm going to go with a 3.5 out of 10 for this one. Yeah, huge drop. You go from a 9.5 film, in my opinion, like The Dream Master, all the way to this. So you drop 6 points for this movie. I think it's terrible. And you had the same heroine that I love. I'm giving the movie probably 2 points based on her performance. I just like her and her being hot. That's another half star. So other than that, he gets 1 star. So yeah, this is The Dream Master. Never was a big fan. Don't like this movie. Don't recommend that movie. And that brings me to the one that was supposed to end it all. This is Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, aka Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, whatever you want to call it. I've read a lot about this movie. This movie is actually, they wanted initially to do, and by the way, my Instagram live stream is going to cut out in a little bit. I'll restart it, I promise. So just hold and bear with me. I may have to take a couple of dead air moments, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, the only Insta stream only holds on for like an hour or so at a time. So I'll have to start it for the second hour. But yeah, man, this movie, there was an original idea from Peter Jackson about this movie, and I would have loved to have seen what he would have done with this, because this is around the time he made movies like Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles. This was like a year before he made Dead Alive. And man, Peter Jackson, if Peter Jackson was to make this movie, I believe the story he came up with was like Freddy became a joke and everybody would dream, like take pills to dream and kick his ass. And in one part in there, Freddy was going to get a lucky kill and be back and better than ever. And then this guy falls into a coma, and then it's like this whole movie between Freddy versus this guy in the coma who's permanently in dreamland. I would have 100 times taken that movie over this. Like, I don't even know what that movie, maybe it would have been terrible too, but man, I would have taken that movie over this. I would have, actually, I can review this one. This one actually has these special 3D glasses because there's a sequence in it in 3D. I'll actually, screw it. You know what? I'll take this. I'm going 3D, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. I may have to take this headset off. Hold on. All right. I'm seeing in 3D now. Yeah. I can't actually, this is like really gives me a headache, to be honest with you, especially when you're not watching the 3D. But yeah, man, when it comes to this movie, I don't know. I'm honestly not the biggest fan of this movie. I think this movie kind of stinks too. Does it stink as much as part 5? It's kind of on the same level for me. Okay, hold on. My Instagram stream ended. Let me just share this. I'll share that, and we're going to go live again. We got 60% battery, so we're gooch. I'm sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. Checking connection. We're now live again. All right, this is part 2. This is the history-breaking hour, ladies and gentlemen. That here. All right, sorry about that. Sorry for all the confusion. I knew that was going to happen at some point in the show. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I'm in 3D glasses. You know, it's badass, pretty cool. But this movie, not a big fan. Not a big fan at all. Basically, you dropped the Lisa Wilcox character from the previous film. And I don't know why they did that. I'll be honest, I really like Lisa Wilcox a lot better than anybody in this movie. It starts off with this John Doe character played by Sean Greenblatt, and he's like the last survivor of Elm Street. He's like the last child on the block of Elm Street. And Freddy kind of sends him to this like orphanage. Well, it's not really an orphanage. It's like for like a troubled youth center, I guess. And you're introduced to like Leslie Dean as this like she's like this girl who dealt with a lot of abuse in her life. Breckin Meyer is in there. I forget the other kid who plays the Carlos character. He has like a hearing problem. From what I can understand, most of them just had like daddy issues. Like that seemed like they all had daddy issues to me. I don't really know why they went with them all to have the same type of backstory there. But I mean, it is what it is. And then you're introduced to Lisa Zane, who we think Sean Greenblatt's going to be the lead. And I will commend the movie for this. It definitely gives a twist. Like, you think Sean Greenblatt off the bat is going to be the twist, like he's going to be the lead guy, and they kind of twisted to Lisa Zane. And I really, really like Lisa Zane in this movie, and I think that was an interesting direction to go with this. And Lisa Zane basically takes the kids all back to Springwood, and they go to this fair, and they realize all the kids are dead there. And you slowly but surely realize Freddy's plan to expand, and he says every town has an Elm Street. It's super goofy. It's super hokey. It's super kind of over the top. And like, honestly, I don't really mean that in the best of ways. Like, I honestly am not the biggest fan of the goof factor in this movie. And especially, I think the kills are really weak, too. Like, Carlos, he has this hearing problem, and Freddy's dropping pins. Like, he makes his hearing supersonic, and if he drops a lot of pins, it'll, like, make him go crazy from all the noise, and eventually his kid's head explodes, which isn't as cool as it sounds because his head explodes, but there's no goddamn blood. Like, it's like Scanners if there was no blood in the head explosion. And I'm just always just like, huh? Like, no blood in this head explosion? Like, what are you doing? Like, that's just like lame, I think, personally. And then you have Breckin Meyer gets killed with the game club, the power club that Freddy's playing. Like, oh, now I'm playing with power, and all these cheesy one-liners. This is definitely the one where they go over the top with the one-liners the most. Like, I think all the one-liners in this, most of them, I just kind of roll my eyes. I mean, I just think it's like uber goofy to the point where I'm just kind of like, like, I don't know. And I'll be honest, like, I think there's just a long period of this movie where I'm just kind of just waiting for something to happen. Like, I'll be honest, I think the first like hour of this movie is pretty meh. Like, yeah, it's entertaining in a goofy way at times, but like, I don't know, I just don't get into it at all. I think the kills are lame. I think the characters are lame. I don't feel anything for them other than Lisa Zane and Sean Greenblatt. And just when you start to like him, he kind of gets killed. And like, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. Because he thinks he's Freddy's son, and he thinks that that's why Freddy won't kill him. And then you slowly but surely realize that it's actually Lisa Zane. She's Freddy's daughter. And they go the whole family aspect with it, just like Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. I don't know why they always go with the family aspect with these movies. Like, that always seems to be, oh, well, it has to be somebody from his bloodline to kill him. Oh, like, no. Like, just no. I don't agree with that at all. I think it's stupid. It's a spit in the face to Lisa Wilcox as far as I'm concerned. Especially the way they do kill Freddy, which I'll get into. But, man, it's just weak. Yeah. Was it? Oh, you got cookie? Yeah, bring me a cookie. Go ahead, Miranda. They have cookies in there. Yeah, I got the 3D, right? Yeah. I can't really see too good. You can bring them in. I don't mind. They have cookies for me for spring break. I can't see too good. I see red and blue. Ooh, is this chocolate chip? Mm-hmm. This is Tyler. This is the man that makes the magic happen.
Hello, world.
We have the teamwork to make the dream work. Thank you, sir. Chocolate. Thank you, sir. Delicious chocolate chip cookie that I probably shouldn't be chewing on the air. But I continue to chew because it's delicious and chewy. Wow, that's actually a damn good cookie. I'm going to eat the hell out of that when we go off the air. But, I don't know. I just think this is lame, like, to go the family route with this. Like, really? Like, that's where you're going with Freddy Krueger now? Like, his daughter's got to kill him? And, listen, I'll give credit where it's due. Lisa Zane's good in the role. I don't think she does a bad job. And, in fact, I think she's kind of hot. I think she has a kind of charisma. And I think for the most part, she's a fitting final girl. But I just, at the same time, I don't think the death is fitting. Like, basically what happens is the last part of the movie, she's with Yaphet Kotto and Leslie Dean, who should not have survived in this movie as far as I'm concerned. She stinks. Oh, Brandon's on the other side of the glass. My buddy's here. He'll be on a little bit. I got a couple more to talk about, and then he's going to come in. He's wearing his Goku Gain shirt. Oh, gosh. But yeah, man, I'm not the biggest, I just don't understand. Like, they bring him in and basically they like, oh, is Brandon coming in? Brandon's coming in. Is he coming in? He's coming in! My friend!
I'm sorry.
The door is uber heavy.
Yeah, you can just let it close. It's going to close. It gets stuck like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
My friend!
What's up, man?
How are you? Everyone, it's going to be a split screen with Brandon soon. Brandon, do you want 3D glasses? I've been wearing these. I have a headache, like a brutal headache. Yeah. They're pretty cool. We're going to be in 3D together. How do we look on the split screen? We look gooch? We look gooch. Dude, this is crazy. I see you in 3D.
Yeah.
Put your headset on, my friend.
All right.
How are you? As we interrupt the Elm Street 6.
Yeah, how's that going, by the way?
Dude, it's going good. I'm just I'm taking a turd on this movie right now. It's feeling nice.
Which one is that? I'm sorry, I can't see with the glasses.
Yeah, I can't see with the glasses. You can take them off. They stink. They're giving me a headache too. This is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, Freddy's Dead. This was built to be the final nightmare. And I'm just getting into why I kind of hate the ending.
You're pooping on it?
I'm taking a ginormous three-dimensional crap on this movie right now. Yeah, the ending, it's done in 3D, which the 3D is cool. Like, I gotta show you the 3D sometime. It's pretty badass. Yeah, it's just kind of nothing. Like, she kind of stabs him with a pipe bomb, and he explodes, and this whole 3D thing, and like that's kind of the end of the movie.
I gotta see that one. I don't think I've seen that one.
Honestly, I don't really recommend this one. I think this is kind of a turd. Other than the final 20 minutes of the 3D, I find this movie a chore to sit through. Not a big fan. I'll say I think it's a little bit better than Part 5, maybe. I'd say 4 out of 10. I'm going to give this the Bret Hart rating. 4 out of 10. Just like he gives all Triple H matches. I'm going to give this the 4 out of 10. Not a big fan of Elm Street 6. Just never was. Which brings me to New Nightmare. But before I get into New Nightmare, let me talk with my guest. How are you, my good friend? What's going on with you?
Dude, I'm great. On the way here, I was so happy it's getting nice out. I'm just so sick of the cold weather. I know you like the cold weather, but I like the heat, you know. So I'm just happy it's getting warmer.
It's beautiful outside.
Yeah,
though.
it's really nice. I came in the
Goku Gains.
The Goku Gains shirt. One of my favorite shirts.
No, by the way,
behind the Brock Lesnar shirt that you got me. That's
really?
A great shirt. Yeah, I love that shirt.
Thank you. Were you too big for it?
Yeah, it was just a little small. I don't fit into larges anymore.
For you listening on the app,
last time I fit into a large was in 4th grade.
Yeah, Brandon's like insanely muscular, and like it's to a point where like he posted a thing today where he deadlifted like a whale. Like, it was like Like, I was in class, and, like, he's just like, yo, just starting to lift.
Practice my form.
Yeah, just practicing my form. He lifted something that looked like the equivalent of a goddamn car. And he's like, no cell, and he's like, I'm just like, yo, what is it? This kid just lifted a car, and he's like, oh, what do you got to eat? You know, I'm just kind of sitting there, just like, oh my god, with this kid. Yo, Matt, can we get Brandon a cookie? Yeah, they're gonna bring you a cookie too.
Ooh, what kind of cookies?
Chocolate. I got a chocolate chip one. Granted, I can't really see too good, so I couldn't tell. I just kind of felt for.
It's gonna take a minute with the two of them fighting.
Okay, Miranda just made a cameo on my show, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, here comes Tyler.
Oh, nice.
I got you.
Ooh, chocolate chip? Nice.
Yeah, all good?
Thank you,
A
man.
three-dimensional chocolate chip.
Oh, son of a bitch. Sorry.
That scared me.
Dude, me too. I thought you dropped the cookie tray.
I was like, that was a loud cookie tray.
Dude, I know, right?
Chocolate chip.
But yeah, I saw you like no sell on that. I was like, oh my gosh, this kid's nuts, man. He's getting hyped to come on and talk about.
Dude, I was, man. I was thinking about it all day. I love Ram Nation Radio.
Dude, we're the bomb.com, man. Dude, you're a part of history right now. No one has ever done a 2 hour.
How long have you been in right now?
Hour and 10 minutes exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we still got 50 minutes to go in this marathon, which brings me, as I'm chewing, to Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Have you ever seen this?
No.
Never seen this. Okay. I watched this last night. I actually started to watch it, but I'll be honest, I fell asleep. This is one of those movies. It's kind of. I really enjoy this movie, to be honest, especially upon rewatch. For years, I was kind of always like, on it. But over the years, this one has kind of won me over, especially last night when I watched it. This is like a precursor to what Scream became. It's very self-aware. It's one of those movies that it's innovative. It's very different because coming off Freddy's Dead, because Wes Craven came back to direct this and write this. And he was like, I can't make sense of what they did. Like, after part 5 especially, when you bring abortion into the dreams and stuff, like, that's just not a theme that you can really do anything with. And especially after Freddy's Dead, which is just it's almost like a cartoon Freddy movie. And I know some people love it for that. I know my friend Ryan loves it for that. So shout out to him. I know that's one of his faves. But this really kind of dialed the volume back and became really a lot more creepy and atmospheric. And basically everybody in the movie is playing themselves. Like, Wes Craven is in this playing Wes Craven. Robert Englund's in this playing Robert Englund. And then throughout all the movie, slowly but surely you realize that Freddy is kind of living within them and killing them off and stuff. And I don't know, man. I kind of have a good time with this movie. I think it's different. I think it's a movie that I think was a perfect ending to the series because when you look at part 6, I just feel like it just was not a fitting final death for Freddy Krueger. Like, I think the death in part 4 is the perfect fitting final death. It's almost like this is something you can relate to. Don't you think the Rocky series kind of should have ended with part 4?
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
after that, it was just very crappy. It was just too much at that point. They should have just stopped. It was just too much.
Yeah, like Rocky 5 is just a mess.
That was just an extra, man. Not needed at all.
Yeah, and like I feel that way with the Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. Like I totally feel that way with this movie too because it's just one of those movies where it's like you ended the movie perfectly. You had this badass heroine that kills Freddy off, and there's no better way to kill off that character in this awesome drag out fight. And instead you bring him back and like you're talking about babies and like what? Like it was just a needless, horrible, worthless sequel. But I'll be honest, I think this movie is a better end to the series than Part 6 would be. Because it's new, it's innovative, it's creative. Wes Craven, you had the person that brought Freddy Krueger to the big screen in 84, now getting to kind of kill him off 10 years later in 94. I always thought that was really cool, kind of the whole, like the Savini Jason thing, whereas Savini created Jason Voorhees in 1980, got to kill him off in Friday the 13th, the final chapter, until he came back and Jason lives, of course. Because you can never kill Jason. The fans will always bring Jason back to life, no matter what you do to him. You could stab him, electrocute him, blow him up. He'll be back in a year. That's pretty much how that formula works. But Man, I think this is a good movie. I think Heather Langenkamp does a good job playing herself. I think Miko Hughes does a good job as her son. He's also in like Kindergarten Cop. He's the kid that says, boys have penises and girls have vaginas. He's that kid. He's also in Pet Sematary as Gabe, and he's annoying as hell in that. But he's in Full House. Like he had a pretty decent career for a kid. And I don't know. I think this is a pretty fun movie. I think this is a good Wes Craven movie. I had not seen it in years, and I remember always kind of being in the middle on it. Granted, I don't love it as much as parts 1 through 4, but I definitely think it's a watchable movie, and I think it's a better end to the series, a more fitting end to the series as opposed to Freddy's Dead. I'll be honest. If I had to rate this one, I'm going to go with a 6 out of 10, a solid 6 out of 10. I enjoy this movie. I don't think it's a great movie. Like the first 4, I think, are classics. Like I think the original's a 10, part 2 is an 8.5, part 3 is an 8, and part 4 is a 9.5. Those are like 4 movies I love. This movie, not as good, but definitely a step above part 5 and 6. You really couldn't go anywhere but up from those 2 movies, and I think this movie does so. So that is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. We could talk. I know you've seen this movie. That would chronologically mean that Freddy versus Jason would come after.
I mean, Freddy vs. Jason, that was just supposed to be a fun movie. It really wasn't for the marks to critique.
That's true.
It really was just,
even though they did anyway.
I don't know why it's supposed to be a fun movie. But that I like that movie because I had fun with it. You know, as simple as that.
I really enjoy that flick too. Like I have a blast with that movie. Like I just love the story where Freddy's using Jason to get to the kid so he can get strength back, and then this awesome battle between these two 80s horror icons. Like,
I mean, that's just a childhood right there.
Right? Yo, right? Like
that's just my childhood. And that ending was insane. Yeah, I love that ending, man.
The battle between those two, just, oh my God. At Crystal Lake, of all places, like she's like, Jason's going to have the home field advantage. Place your bets.
Let's
go.
Yeah.
I love that flick. The only thing, if I would have added anything to it, because I heard somebody pitch this, and I love this idea. The movie was going to open with Freddy and Jason in hell. And the devil was going to say, you two have been my greatest killers from as far as I can remember. You've killed everybody that's ever come in your path until now, until you're both gone. He says, but I'm going to offer you both the deal of a lifetime. I'm going to send you both back, and whoever kills more is going to get to stay on planet Earth, and the other comes back to hell forever. And they were going to have it work out where it ended in a tie, and then they were going to battle. So it was still going to be
that would have been fun too.
Yo,
that would have been fun.
That would have
been cool.
You could have even had like a scoreboard, like for every Jason kill, ping, Jason 1, and like ping, Freddy 2, and like going back and forth, like do a scoreboard thing, man. That would have been lit, man. That would have been so
That would have been cool. I never even knew that, actually.
Yeah, that was one of the original things, and like it was going to end where they kill each other, and then Hellraiser was going to rise up from hell and say, excuse me, sir, what seems to be the problem here? And the movie was going to cut to black, and then the sequel was going to be Pinhead versus Jason versus Freddy, which obviously we're never going to get. By the way, I have to take these glasses off. I'm getting dizzy. Woo! All right, back with this. Hold on.
We can see you now.
Yeah, I was like losing my head there for a minute, man. These things, I do love these glasses, but damn, they are trippy as all hell. They're like Shark Boy and Lava Girl style 3D glasses, right? I think it's cool to like cover one eye and then you see all blue and stuff. Like that's a lot of fun. I just like to do that. I don't know why, but I think it's a perfectly fun movie, don't you? Like I love the kills.
100%.
It's just a lot of fun. Like I think that's exactly what it had.
Just gotta take it what it's for, man. Freddy vs. Jason. It's in the title.
It's in the title.
There's just like nothing to critique because
it's fun.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of horror fans don't like the movie, and I just don't really get why. Like listen, okay, the director kind of stinks. Ronnie Yu, who also directed Bride of Chucky, which I think that movie is kind of.
Oh, that movie sucked, dude.
Yeah, that movie.
That movie was awful. Don't see that movie. Whoever's watching.
Yeah, Ronnie Yu didn't go on to make too many memorable movies. I think they could have definitely got a better director and maybe gone with the story that I pitched. That I didn't technically pitch it. I'm just repeating what I heard pitched. I thought that was a fantastic idea for a Freddy versus Jason movie to just make it completely comic book style. But I just love the movie. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's just a perfect time at the movies where it's a perfect movie like you take your friends to, your girlfriend to, get some popcorns, turn your brain off for an hour and a half and enjoy the stuff on the screen.
100%.
And, I think that's what's so... Bye, Miranda. Have a beautiful spring break.
Bye.
We'll talk about that fundraiser, Miranda. Uh-oh. Miranda's going to say something. Oh, I thought you were going to say something. You forgot your water bottle. What an anticlimactic thing for Miranda to do. But... what would you rate Freddy vs. Jason out of 10?
What would I rate Freddy vs. Jason out of 10? I'd give it like... seriously? Or just like...
What would you give it in your personal opinion? I'm not...
Maybe like a 6?
Yeah, I would say it's around there too. It's
5 or a 6?
It's a fun time. And it's definitely... I would say it's definitely more of a Freddy movie. Because it's like, oh, Freddy's using this person to get back into the real world. Like, it's definitely... And then Jason's just killing people. Like, there's really no Jason story arc there.
Right.
It's a Freddy story arc, which is a lot of fun. Which brings me to the last film of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Before we talk about It Follows, we have to discuss... I don't know. You may have seen this one too. A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, the remake. Have you seen it?
I have a while ago.
What'd you think as I eat this cookie?
I thought it was good. I don't think it was better than the first one. So, the original. But it was good. I give it like a 6 or a 7.
Okay, Brandon's a lot more kind than me because I hate this movie with a passion.
But the first one, the reason I thought the first one was like a 10. The last time I was on the show,
Yeah, I was telling everybody.
I think I gave it like a 10. That's how good I thought it was. But this, I'll give it a 6. A 6 in my mind is okay, I guess.
Pass, definitely. For me, it's like a 5 is a pass, and below a 5, the movie failed. That's
Okay.
like for me. Like,
What do you give it? Like a 3 or a 4?
I give it a 0, actually. Yeah, I'm going to get into why. This one I'm going to go off for a little bit because we have some time to talk about It Follows still. But, all right. I had the displeasure of seeing this piece of turd in the theater. And I was excited, actually, believe it or not. I saw the trailer. I was like, oh, man, this looks really cool. This looks like a return to form. Freddy's going to be scary again. They recast Freddy with Jackie Earle Haley from the Bad News Bears. And to say he sucked would be an understatement. He sucked. He really did suck, though. They recasted him as Freddy. No one had been Freddy except Robert Englund to that point, and that's a huge problem with this movie. But the biggest problem with this movie is the director, Samuel Bayer, or as my friend Matt calls him, Samuel Bayer Ass, because he's ass. He stinks. They hired a music video director from like the 90s to direct this movie. And it is so horrendously bad. I can't even begin to explain. I've seen the movie once, and I absolutely will never see it again. It basically tells the story of... It basically is a remake of the first one. You have Nancy, played by... oh, my God, what's her name? Rooney Mara. Who... My pinky has more charisma than Rooney Mara.
Man, when you critique a movie, you absolutely... crap on it bad.
Oh, I'm bent over and steam is coming out of my ass right now.
You're
right?
ruthless.
This is beef stew type of moment. This is the kids are chanting me on to bash this movie. You have this lifeless, dull performance from Rooney Mara, who looks like she's on crack the entire movie. She's just complaining, moaning. She has no charisma at all. Like she makes Heather Langenkamp's performance look like Oscar worthy in the original film. I swear to God, she's such a bad final girl. You have her boyfriend, the Quentin character, who's kind of trying to be like the Johnny Depp character, who's crying like a female throughout the entire goddamn movie. I don't like him at all. He looks like a reject from Spy Kids. Kids sucked. You have. Jeez, just terrible kills and terrible CGI. Like, there's the scene where they try to reinvent the scene from the original where Freddy comes from over the bed, and instead it's just this CGI monsoon of trash. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is bad. Like, really bad effects. And the thing in this movie that pisses me off the most is there's an arc in this movie where they try to explain to the viewer that Freddy was innocent. I'm not kidding. They go into like a half-hour explanation as to why they think Freddy Krueger was an innocent man. And I'm just like, yo, Freddy Krueger is the incarnation of evil. What are you talking about? He's an innocent man. And like, you arrested an innocent man. And they turn him into a preschool gardener in this movie. That's the origin of Freddy. There's no boiler room in this movie, Brandon. They decide, let's make him into a preschool gardener that took kids to the basement and molested them. That's the origin of Freddy Krueger in this movie.
What year did this movie come out again?
2010.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember it
Yeah.
because I must have seen it bad.
You must have seen it and turned your brain off like you should have.
Yeah, maybe
Because-
I literally I've seen it 9 years ago when it came out.
I saw it the opening night in the theater,
Yeah.
and I've never walked out of a theater more pissed. And I seen The Last Jedi with you, and I think I was pretty pissed that night.
You never watched it again? You never watched the?
I've never watched the remake again, and I never will.
Wow.
It's a piece of dog crap. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of the talent that Wes Craven and all these people all right, I know people do not like part 2. I'm not even gonna go out and grab all the discs because I'll just go on a 10-hour rant. The people that make part 2, they say that that's not creative. What did this guy do? He just copied everything, added horrible CG, a terrible performance from a lead heroine that has less charisma than a goddamn ant. You have a crappy performance from the guy trying to play Freddy, who never could lace Robert Englund's boots or put his glove on any day of the goddamn week. A director bumbling around, didn't know what he was doing. A terrible plot, a terrible written story from Eric Heiserer, who also wrote the Thing prequel that sucks too. Oh my God, I hate this movie. This may be my least favorite big budgeted horror film ever. There's some bad direct-to-DVD cheap movies, but when it comes to movies that had a budget, that had a name, that got a wide release and made a lot of money in its opening week, I believe this movie made like $30 million in its opening week.
I'm sure. Just by the name.
Yeah, it could have been Freddy Krueger taking a dump for 2 hours. It would have made $30 million.
All the
pretty much was.
all the mainstream movies are gonna make a ton of money in the first week.
Yeah, for the title alone. I mean, it doesn't matter how the movie could be terrible; it'll still make money.
Because it's a classic.
It's a horrible film. I don't recommend anybody ever subject themselves to this movie. It's one of those movies where I'm not even going to recommend it on it's so bad it has to be seen to be believed. No, it's just so bad it shouldn't be seen at all. The filmmakers should be ashamed of themselves for making this sorry excuse for a remake. It makes Rob Zombie's Halloween look like an Oscar-worthy movie, and same thing with the Friday the 13th remake. I think that's a great remake compared to this.
I love that remake. That was good.
It makes the bad remakes look good, like The Fog. Even The Fog, which is a piece of crap too, is better than this. It's just such a sad way to end such a classic series. But yeah, that is the Nightmare on Elm Street series. I would rate the last one, the remake, a 0 out of 10. I want to get to It Follows here with Brandon, but so overall, the ranking these movies, I will put them out. Of course, the original is number 1. We'll go with part 4 at the number 2 slot. Then we'll go with part 2 at the number 3 slot. We'll go with part 3 at the number 4 slot. Wow, that's tough. Then I'd go New Nightmare, I think, at the number 5. Then Freddy's Dead. Then The Dream Child, a.k.a. The Dream Abortion, which sucks. And then that sorry excuse for a remake. And I won't throw Freddy vs. Jason in there, but it would be somewhere between part 3 and New Nightmare for me.
Yeah, it'd be hard to throw Freddy vs. Jason in there.
Yeah, because it's honestly...
It's uncomparable.
It is.
To any of the other movies.
It definitely is. But that brings me... I thank you all for joining. I went about an hour and a half discussing the franchise. It was a fun little retrospective. But that brings me to Mr. Cancelleri, the reason that he's come on the show today. Because 4 years ago yesterday... Probably my favorite horror movie of the decade was released wide in theaters, and you've said that it's one of your favorites ever.
It's one of my favorites. It's probably my second favorite behind the first Halloween.
Okay.
Because in many aspects, it is comparable to Halloween. And
I agree.
As far as, the director, I believe his name is David Mitchell. Robert Mitchell.
David Robert Mitchell, yeah.
Yeah, he was good, man. I got to give him a pat on the back. I didn't really know who he was until this movie.
Me neither.
And I got to give him a pat on the back because that, again, was second behind Halloween, and it's close for me. That's how good I thought this movie was.
No doubt. And
And
of course, what we're talking about is It Follows, by the way.
It Follows.
Said the title. I never said it.
Yeah, but it's good, and I'm excited to discuss the goods, the bads about it.
And the goddamn uglies.
Yeah.
Francine, what are you doing over there? Hot
She's
flashes. So tell me your origin with this, because I actually have a cool story with this one when first night I saw it.
I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it in theaters 2 days after it came out with my cousin.
With Joe?
Yeah, Joe. I
love Joe.
saw
Shout
it
out
with,
to Joe.
I saw it with Joe. And I thought it was so good. I saw it again the next week with one of my friends.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've never done that with any movie, not horror, not comedy, not anything. That's how good I thought it was. And when I walked out, man, I was so creeped out. I was looking over my shoulder, seeing if it was right there. But that's how creepy I thought it was.
I actually have a similar story. I saw this movie. I did not see it opening night, or I saw it about a month after it was in theaters. It came at Deer Park. That was like the last place it was playing for a while until it went to Blu-ray.
I think I saw it in... where did I see it? What theater was it? It might have been Seaford.
Seaford? I didn't know Seaford would play that.
No, maybe not Seaford.
Maybe it was the Dale, right here? The multiplex?
I don't remember what movie theater it was, but... Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember the first time, 4 years ago,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 4 years and a day it was released, actually. And that's a big reason, too, why we wanted to talk about this in honor of its anniversary. But, yeah, I saw this movie in Deer Park with Connor the Hitman Larkin.
Connor the Hitman.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, Connor.
I saw it with
up.
Nick Reep, and Aaron Hoffman. The four of us went out, and we just had a fun movie night. We got food.
Oh,
we went to the theater. Like I remember, we played that Terminator game, Terminator Salvation, where like it was like the shoot 'em game, the arcade game. It was a lot of fun. Me and Connor got like to the last level of it before we lost. I went into the movie. Everybody had said, "Oh, it's great, it's great." And I remind you, I was coming off seeing The Babadook, which I thought wasn't. It was hyped forever, and I just wasn't in on the hype when I saw it.
I heard that movie got a lot of reviews that it was actually really scary.
People love it. People think The Babadook's great.
They think it was scarier than It Follows.
Yeah. We'll get into that. There's a whole controversy with those two movies as well. But like, I went into the movie not thinking too much, and to say I walked out similarly.
Dude, man, I'm getting the chills right now.
Right. Yo, where's John Travolta at? I got chills. Yo, but man, I walked out. I remember when the movie ended. I like had a Rocky. I threw my arms up. I was like, yes. I was like,
yeah. Because you're excited to see a classic that you haven't seen in 20 years. I know. I had the same reaction.
I hadn't gone to the movies in the longest time
to see a good movie
and left with that feeling of that
just
was an
wholesomeness. You just felt great, yeah.
And that doesn't happen. That does not grow on trees, man. Like that's. How many times have you ever done that in your life? Like I literally could count it on one hand with me.
Yeah, there was only a few movies that really. Wow, man, that was gives you the chills, man. You just feel good. Like you go home, you tell all your friends, like, you guys got to check out this movie, man. This is the best.
And that's a big reason why I love horror. Like a lot of people, for example, one of the guys that I forget his name, he sometimes comes to the club meetings. He always asks, he goes, "How can you do a show on horror?" And I said, I love it like anything else. It's just a passion. And he was like, "But what is the main thing?" And I told him the story that follows. It's very similar to my passion with pro wrestling. Are there some horror movies and pro wrestling matches, pay-per-views, times, eras that can piss me off? More than I can count. Absolutely. But when either is done right, it gives you the best feeling in the world. Like when you see a classic 5-star wrestling match, you just want to like relive it all over again.
100%. I'm a much bigger fan in pro wrestling than I am in horror. Yeah. I love pro wrestling, but but I agree 100%. No.
When WrestleMania 21 all those years ago when Batista beat Triple H. I know you're.
That was cool. That was cool.
Cena, like to you.
I was a big Batista fan then.
Yeah.
Not so much now. I don't want to get into.
Oh Jesus! Let's not get into that.
I don't want to get into that.
That was the worst.
But yeah, WrestleMania 21. I don't care. That'll give any wrestling fan chills. Even if you didn't like Batista or even if you don't like Triple H, that'll give you chills because the history that they had, if anybody's followed it back then, you'll see why. Because that leading promo, that leading match was like, damn, there's a lot of...
The slow burn build.
There's a lot of tension going on right here.
And the same thing I'd say with I know some people don't like to talk about Benoit anymore, but when Benoit won the title the year before, I remember being in tears when he won that.
A lot of people were.
When
Mysterio won the Royal Rumble, or Mysterio won his first title, that was...
When Austin won the title from Shawn Michaels and Mike Tyson counts that 3. Like there are a few moments in the wrestling business and in the horror movie business where I get that feeling of like, I'm untouchable. This is why I love this genre. When it's great, there's nothing better than it. Like, I've seen great comedies, but there's no comedy I ever walked out of the theater like I did with It Follows and raised my arms up. I was just like, oh, no, it's funny.
Because you're going into it in a completely different mindset. You're like, oh, I want to see a comedy. I want to laugh. I'm not really gonna say like, oh my god, that was incredibly
the best comedy I've ever seen.
Because comedies don't really go for that.
No, not at all.
They're there for
entertainment,
to be entertainment. Yeah, comedy and to be funny. It's not like horror movies or even action movies in that sense.
Exactly, and like that's why I love movies like It Follows, because like when I walked out, I just had that feeling of I'm untouchable right now, and the genre is untouchable right now. And
because I believe they're the hardest to create. If you're really creating a movie, you have to make the unrealistic or the unrealistic look realistic. You know, you have to catch the viewer's eye and stuff like that.
Totally, and I think this movie right off the bat, when you look into the opening scene, it just has a fantastic scope. I love the way this movie opens. It opens where this girl is running.
She's running, yeah,
in the middle of the street, and she's going from door to door screaming and stuff. And she gets in her car and she kind of calls her parents. She's like, "Listen, I love you guys. Just know I love you guys."
Yeah.
And they're like, "What the hell is going on?" Next thing you see,
she wakes
dead.
up. She wakes up on the beach, on just I guess a random beach that she drove to, mangled, absolutely mangled.
Her leg is like turning.
And this visual was so crazy. I was like, "Damn, this is gonna be good."
Yeah, that's how you start a horror film. You create an atmosphere, and then you have this girl crying about something you don't know, and then she's mangled. She's brutally murdered.
Any English majors out there, that's a hook, man. That's a hook. If you want to see a hook, in a movie, that's definitely your best hook right there. That's 100%.
100% great hook, man. I for some reason, man, when I first saw that, I was like super creeped out. And I I went, that's how we start in this one.
Yeah.
And then we're really introduced to our final girl, played by Micah Monroe.
Micah Monroe, yeah.
Who does a really good job. She's a good-looking chick. And she's dating this guy. And they go on a couple dates and whatnot, and you slowly realize that he's kind of acting weird on all these dates.
Yeah, he has what you call the nervous energy, and he's just looking around. He's constantly saying, "Oh, do you see that? Do you see that person?"
Oh yeah, they're playing the game. I love that they're playing a game where it's like you have two guesses to pick who I picked in the crowd and why I picked them.
That was when they were in the movies, right?
Yeah, and
when
they're
they were
playing
online
the game,
waiting the movie.
And she fails at his game, and she goes, "All right, who'd you pick?" He goes, "The girl in the yellow dress over there." And she's like, "I don't see no girl in the yellow dress." And he's like, "Yo, we got to dip." And they just rush out of there, and I'm just like, ooh, what is going on right now, man? Because, like, I didn't, like, people are always like, "Oh, you saw the trailer, didn't you?" No. Yeah. I walked in this movie blind. All I heard was, "Oh, you'll like it." That's all I heard, which I've heard 100 times. "Oh, you'll love the Babadook." And then an hour and 45 minutes later, I want to punt kick that kid like a crack baby through the goddamn window, man. I hated that goddamn kid. But, man, I don't know. I just think it's a perfect setup, right?
Yeah.
It's such a slow burn.
Yeah, and it pretty much describes the whole point of the movie right in the beginning, right? Where, you know, he's explained after this happens and after, you know, they're dating, he tries to have sex with her, and the reason being is. It's like almost like a sexually transmitted disease. Monster. Yeah, I don't even
an know. STM, if you will.
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it, but this sexually transmitted disease is bringing this supernatural entity to follow that person. And they call it in the movie, hence It Follows. And that person is trying to get rid of it, but the only way they can get rid of it is pass it on by having sex with a partner, and that's what he does. He has sex with the girl, Micah Monroe, is that her name? And she's freaking out after once. Well,
she wakes up and she has her in the chair and he says, "Listen, it's gonna follow you." And she's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, what's it?
He basically gives the origin. He's like, "Listen, I don't know where it came from, but you know, someone passed it on to me, I pass it on to you. All you have to do is just keep passing it on and it'll never kill you. But once it's going after you, it's going to go slow at you, but it's not dumb."
Yeah, it's smart. It's very
slow,
smart.
But it's smart, he says. And like right there, like that's awesome. You're creating your own folklore. Like, because, like, you know, this guy I was just talking about for an hour and a half, they created their own folklore with this movie.
Right.
A man who comes to get you in his dreams that killed children, and one day the parents decided because he got released on a technicality, they burned the place alive, and that's why he's all burnt up and wearing the claw. And that's, you have to do something like that in a horror movie, and this movie does that. It's like, yo, we're being original. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it was exactly. That's the point. It was original. It was classic. It was a classic, and nobody's ever heard anything like that. Like, what is that?
Sexually transmitted monster? I'm like,
that's what it is. That's really, I mean, that's the best way I could describe it. Everybody has their own explanation for what it is, but that's what's good about this movie. It keeps everyone on edge, so everyone's going to have a different opinion, which will stir the pot, and we'll have people talking.
Yeah, and I think
and when he was like telling her, like, it's gonna follow you. It's if you don't get rid of it, it's gonna kill you and then come back to me. So you have to get rid of this by having sex with somebody else.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, you're a chick, so it'll be a lot easier for you."
Yeah,
I always love that. I'm like, that's true.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, and I love the score in this movie, done by Disaster Piece. That's the guy who did the score of this movie. Just really creepy synth / like it's almost like a video game score. I think.
Yeah.
Like doo 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 doo.
Yeah.
It's very. It feels like you're like just loaded a '90s video game or something.
Listen, like I said in the beginning, I think it's very comparable to Halloween. I mean, you have it comparable to
The Shape.
Yeah, Mike Myers, because they have these scenes where they're showing you it. Like, for instance, like during the movie, like Micah Monroe was in school. She was in class, and all you see in the back, like I think it was like, how do you describe it?
Campus.
Yeah, no. It was the camera. The camera was like going in like a circular motion
360,
around.
yeah.
A 360 type of camera, and it was filming in on this entity, and you didn't really know if it was it or not because there was a bunch of people around the campus.
Yeah, it could be anybody.
It could have been like anyone, and then like it started getting closer, and now you could pick out like, oh, it's that thing is coming towards the school, and she's looking out the window and she's like freaking out. And that's like very similar to like Michael Myers, like he's coming, you don't really know if it's him, but then you see him and then they just start freaking out.
They do that a lot, yeah. And in the original Halloween, like the perfect example is when Loomis goes to meet Sheriff Brackett in the store, you see Michael in the background drive past him. He's like, I'm looking for him, and he's looking around, and Michael just drives right past him, and you kind of laugh. This movie, there's a lot of points too where I'll go back upon rewatch and I'll pause and I'll be like, oh, you can see right there somebody's walking directly straight forward. Whereas when the shot started, they were far, and by the time you pan around all the way to the 360, that person I saw all the way in the background is closer. And
I don't know I guess the panoramic view of I guess that's what you call it. I don't know, but
I think it's a tracking shot. I think they put the camera on a track and just go all the way at 360 as that weird, creepy music.
That style of angle is really cool, and it really captures the whole scene. It's really getting everything.
Yeah. I will say the only gripe I'd say with this movie, the characters aren't the most memorable, but at the same time, I don't think they were annoying or anything like the kid in the Babadook was. I think these characters were just scared for their friend, and they believed her.
Yeah.
But granted, like, you don't get to know much about them. And
True.
another thing with this movie,
That's very true.
You don't know where this movie takes place. Like, it could be...
we were talking about that actually a while ago.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
Like there's an old school bunny ear TV, but then at the same time, this woman has like an iPhone, and it's like a seashell iPhone where she's like reading. I'm like, huh? Like,
it could be in another dimension, like another universe.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I've heard a lot of people throw theories out of that, and granted, I'm not a big theory or conspiracy person, but like, I think it's cool because you really don't know where this movie. The parents are low key like not in this movie.
Oh, I was gonna say that's the only negative I would say about this movie is the parents. They're just like non-existent. Like the kids need help and the parents aren't there at all.
It's
at
like
least
Ed and Eddie.
Yeah.
It's like
at least in Halloween, like the parents are like concerned.
They're out for the night. Jamie Lee's parents in Halloween. Like that's Like with this movie though, you don't ever see her mom. Like not one time do you see her mom. Do you see anybody else's mom really?
Yeah.
it's just odd, like, that they do that. But, like, at the same time, I think it adds to the fact where, like, you have to deal with your own crap in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's not mommy and daddy ain't saving you in this movie. And I liked that they did that. I thought that was a little bit interesting. Like, I was wondering the entire time, but, like, I wasn't pissed off by it. I wasn't like, oh, this is silly. But, like, I thought it was actually really smart and eerie. It added kind of aesthetic to it. But, man, I really enjoy this flick because it's almost like a PSA on, like, to practice safe sex. Like, don't have sex with people that have sexually transmitted monsters inside them.
Yeah.
You know? And I just think you want to run through some of your favorite scenes. We got like 15 minutes.
The tall man. Remember when the tall man comes in? That
like
was
the guy we met
craziest.
on the roller coaster
Yeah.
at Six Flags. we were in Six Flags a couple years ago, and there's a guy. I'm not kidding you. He was like close to 8 feet tall, and he had the most funny voice ever. He was like, I was too tall to ride the ride. He had like a giant shark tooth. Like, he was like skater surfer dude, and he was like taller than goddamn Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
He was big. He would if he would have went on one of those rides, his freaking head would have came
His
off.
knees were like, like when you sit down on the ride, like his knees were like, I was like, bro, your knees. He was like, that's why I have to sit in the front. Dude, this guy had the funniest goddamn voice I've ever heard. Like, he was in tears laughing at this guy. And I was just like, oh yeah? I'm like, so how tall are you? He was like, very tall, like close to 8 foot. It was funny, but like, yo, continue. This guy reminded me of him.
Oh, man. Yeah, it did. He just... So pretty much in the scene, like they're all at I don't know which house they were at. They might have been
The summer house, the upstate house.
They were at the upstate house
Yes.
when that was going on?
Yeah.
So they were at the upstate house, and they were all upstairs. Or no, before that scene, something got thrown through the window. I don't exactly remember. Maybe a rock got thrown through the window, and there was this lady in the kitchen that like pissed herself, and like we kept.
Oh my God, yeah.
That was before that scene that like pissed herself, and Michael Monroe saw this lady coming towards us, so she runs upstairs, and everybody's like, "Hey, what's going on? You know, we don't see anybody. What's going on?" Because obviously, when you have the disease, only you can see it, and nobody else can see it. And everybody was like, "What the heck is going on? Like, you're okay. Everything is fine." So she goes upstairs, and she's like, close the door, please close the door. And one of her friends opens the door, and she's like, there's nobody here. And then you just see this monster,
8 foot tall guy.
like 8 foot tall guy duck through the door, and
She starts bugging.
she just starts screaming and bugging out. And I think she jumps out the window or something and just starts running for her life.
bicycles away.
Yeah, she like bicycles away. And
Daring escape.
her friend, all you hear, which was cool, her friend's like, where are you going? What are you doing? Like, oh man, that was my favorite scene during the movie.
I love that scene, man.
Yeah, no, or even the other scene when they're on the beach, and
But yeah, they're all just chilling.
they're chilling, and then like you just hear gunshots, like, and I think one of them almost like got hit with a gunshot because it was trying to kill this
So you got one guy hit her with
invisible
a chair?
object. Yeah,
Sure. Francine's got cupcakes for us.
nice.
But yeah, there was one guy who starts to hit it with the chair, like he just swings, and then it just gets like vaulted. Francine!
Matt's hard to open it, but
Damn, those look
That's
good.
okay, thank you. Francine's on the show.
Thank you.
Francine just made her debut.
Oh, I did.
Damn,
Hello,
those look
everybody.
awesome.
Hello, Francine. Francine rocks.
I do rock. Enjoy those cupcakes.
Thank you, Francine. I appreciate it. Oh, Brandon's going one shot. He's one bite. One bite warrior. Oh, Jesus. His door's still open, Francine. Don't curse. But he hits it, and then like he just gets vaulted back like 30 yards. I die every time when I see that. I'm
Yeah.
like, holy Christ, man! And I do really like when they kind of all band together after they know what's going on. Well, there's two scenes that I think really stand out to me. The one scene where they go to the guy's house, like they find like where he was staying, the guy that had sex with Micah Monroe, her boyfriend. They go to his house, and there's this excellent shot of them all getting out of the car. Like the sun is like perfectly over the house, and Micah Monroe kind of just looks over her shoulder. I get chills every time I see that.
I remember that part. That was a great part.
Aesthetically, it's beautiful to look at for the viewer. and it's horrifying at the same time because it's the old Cannibal Holocaust effect where you take a beautiful imagery shot and you add something that's off, like you put something off in the scene. In Cannibal Holocaust, it's the woman impaled on the pole.
Yeah, it's definitely.
In this, she turns over her shoulder and it's just this beautiful
chilling.
scene, and she's looking. She doesn't see anything.
Yeah, it's a little chilling.
It's all if she doesn't see it, she feels it.
Yeah,
and like that's horror 101.
Yeah,
that is brilliant.
I have to say to all the cast members in It Follows, I thought they did a fantastic job. Like he said, you know, they're not very known. Like, you don't really know these characters. I have a hard time memorizing all their names.
I couldn't tell you any of their names, actually, and I love this movie.
So
other than Mike
and they did. I think they need more. You know, they need more credit, and I think they should be known more because they did do a great job. I mean, I know if I was playing a character in this movie and I wasn't like very known for doing like a great job, I'd be kind of pissed, you know. Like,
I don't think they do a bad job. I just think like there's no development for them. I that's like the one gripe I get with the movie. I understand like they're not the greatest, but like at the same time, I'd rather that than them be annoying. Where I'm just like, oh my god, kill this character. I can't take this character. Like I don't know. Like I felt like in Nightmare 6, like Breckin Meyer was just annoying. The kid with the hearing aid was annoying. Like I didn't care about them. Couldn't care less what happened to them. Whereas in this film, I actually am rooting for them. I want them to help her out and get out of this. And I just love the scene where they kind of all band up and they're like, "Yo, we got to kill this thing. We're gonna
with
trap
the pool
it. Trap
scene
it with the pool," and you get the most awesome score. Thank you, Tyler. Yeah, we're 10 minutes away from making history. You get that awesome score as these kids walk towards the pool, and it's and it's oh my god! It's every time I hear that, it's my favorite horror score of this decade as well. It's in my top 10 ever. Because it's such a great horror movie score. Mm-hmm. Just gives me absolute chills, man. I love it as they're walking to take it down. And I feel like that was another thing, like, and almost taken from a Freddy film. Like, they're like, yo, we got to band up, toughen up, and fight this thing to see if we can survive.
Now, did you think this crew was a smarter crew than in comparison to other movies? Like, as far as their level of, like... Intelligence, yeah. Banding up to...
I think it was smart, yeah. I mean, it doesn't work initially. Like, they want to electrocute it, and she's in the pool. Like, I know a lot of people were like, that's stupid. Which
yeah, it was weird when she got in the middle and like, oh, why did she get in the middle? Like, it's going to come in and start throwing stuff at her, you know?
I thought that was crazy, but I thought it was cool. They throw a sheet on its head and somebody shoots it.
That was very unique.
So smart. Like, okay, now I see it. Bam! He gets a headshot. He falls in and he keeps swimming after her. And that scene where she finally gets out of the water after being attacked by it, and she kind of just peeks her head over the balcony, and then it just reaches up. Like, that's classic horror movie stuff.
And you also got to put yourselves like just for a unrealistic point of view, just put yourself in their shoes and think about what if this actually happened. Like, what would you do? Do you think you'd have the intelligence to put a sheet over somebody's head? No, you'd be freaking out.
Yeah, I would be.
I wouldn't know what to do.
I don't know what to do either. I think they did the right thing.
Yeah,
I thought they combated it cool. And
it's hard to work with a concept like this because like it's so new that you like what do you do? You know, there's no really real way to prepare for this.
And I think the point of the movie, it's almost like she has contracted a horrific case of herpes. Like, it's weird. It's because she at the end of the movie, you realize she's gonna have to live with this forever. It's never gonna go away. It's going to keep trying to kill her.
And so was the person before her, and so was the person before him, and so on and so forth.
I love the closing shot that she has sex with this nerdy guy that's had a crush on her from the beginning of the movie, and he's like passing it on to prostitutes and stuff for as long as he can. And the final shot of the movie is them holding hands walking home, and in the background you can briefly see somebody behind them slowly walking as the film cuts to black.
Great ending.
A perfect ending. That's just a subtle, it's still coming for you, and it's
never gonna stop. Yeah,
and it's just creepy, it's scary, and the characters realize we have to live with this. We are learning to live with this now. And like when I saw that, and then you get that classic do 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 do, like that score. Excellent, man. I just think, I think honestly, I wish I had brought it. I forgot it, to be honest. But I think It Follows a perfect horror movie. I think it's a horror movie that we really desperately needed, and I don't know why, but there are a lot of people that hate this movie. I respect it, but like,
I don't understand how.
Movies to hate.
You're not. You know what I have to say? Then you're not a real horror fan, and you don't get it.
Oh shit! He's throwing out the.
I know it's true because how do you? If you're a horror fan, like if you're a diehard horror fan, there are realistically no problems with this. You have to put into account again what it's presenting and how how hard it is to present this concept.
Yeah, and it's like
you have to kind of give it like a break, okay,
Definitely.
like let's see what they could do with this, let's have all eyes wide open and stuff and see.
Yeah, and there are people that have told me the same thing because I didn't like Hereditary, because I didn't like The Babadook. I don't care. Like, I feel like the whole thing, like, oh, you're not a true horror fan. I understand that gripe, but with this movie, I think people just, for whatever reason, roasted it, thought it was a stupid idea, or they just thought it was boring. I think it's one of those two. That's the two people that don't like this movie. But then again,
horror fans or just people people that aren't horror fans in general?
I know a lot of people that aren't horror fans that hate this movie.
I get that because a lot of them don't get it.
Yeah, but then again, at the same time, my friend Ryan, who's a huge horror movie fan, I mean, he watches horror movies like daily. He hates this movie. He actually said he thought it was a terrible film.
That's crazy.
I respect his opinion, but at the same time, I feel like it has a lot of John Carpenter influence, and he's the biggest John Carpenter guy.
It has a huge John Carpenter influence.
I've never talked to him as to why he dislikes the film. He just told me he disliked it. Maybe I'm sure we text a lot, so I'm sure he'll tell me if he's listening. 5 minutes, I know. Thank you, sir. And we're gonna outro with Dream Warriors, by the way. Dream Warriors, the outro. Okay. But yeah, I wish this movie had just been more universally loved. Because you look at a movie like Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th, all those movies when they came out, everybody loved them. Everybody's like, yo, these are badass movies. Whereas this movie and every movie that comes out nowadays seems very polarizing. You love it or you hate it. It's the worst thing ever, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is? Like, why can't people just universally love stuff anymore? Do you think it's we all know too much? Is the knowledge too far?
I think it's just as simple as everybody has their own interest and everybody has their own idea.
Yeah.
Of what that movie should be. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of marks out there, that, and there's a lot of people that are just going to keep critiquing the movie because it's what they want to see. Yes. You need to sit down, watch the movie, and appreciate what they created for you, not what you want to see so much. If you go in there saying like, oh, I didn't expect it, well, yeah, because you expected something else, and now you're not going to get that.
Mad because you didn't get what you wanted. Same thing, like people say that to me.
I'm very open to movies. I don't do that. I think you need to understand. I mean, if it's a crappy movie, I'll say it's a crappy movie. But if you go in there and are like that and are expecting stuff, then it's just not going to do it for you.
That type of movie fan I never understood because people say that to me with Star Wars. They're like, well, you're not really a Star Wars fan if you didn't like Part 8. I'm like, I went in there and I wanted a good movie. I wasn't expecting, is Ray related to somebody? Like these marks go into the movies.
It's like you're not the one creating the damn movie.
Like if I had the movie my way, Ray would come out in 3 dimension and give me a lap dance. That's how I would have the movie.
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen.
It's hard for me to respect people that do that and have that point of view because I just can't hold a conversation with them because, hey, I would be like, if you were that good, you would be creating a movie, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I just don't there are a bunch of, I don't know, people that say that, I don't want listen, if it's not your cup of tea, I'm not saying you're wrong, you're crazy or anything. I just would like to know why, because I think It Follows is a great film. I don't know, I'll mark for it. But then again, people ask me why I don't like The Babadook and Hereditary. I thought both movies I thought The Babadook was one of the most drawn out, horrible films with an annoying child in it. And then with Hereditary, I thought it was just an overrated, overhyped movie that I didn't find scary at all. But some people tell you Hereditary is the scariest movie to come out in years. Some people tell you The Babadook is one of the best horror movies of all time. Sometimes it's just, you're right.
A lot of people like Hereditary.
I think it's, dude, you would hate that movie.
I haven't seen it, but
I know you would hate it. It's not even a question. Thank you, sir. But yeah, man, dude, just closing here. We got 2 minutes to go. So what would you rate It Follows and like that?
Okay, so I think I rated Halloween a 10. I'd give this a 9.5.
9.5 out of 10.
9.5 out of 10.
I'm right there with you. 9.5 out of 10. I'm right there with you.
I'll give it a solid 9.5. 9.5, give or take. But,
classic horror movie, and a classic show, because we broke Farmingdale State College history. We were 2 minutes away from doing so.
yeah, dude, thank you for having me on the show. I'm actually very happy to be a part of it.
Thank you for being a part of history, man. I really think this was a lot of fun, having you come in halfway through eating cookies and Powerade, staying up, doing all night, 3D glasses, Freddy Krueger, It Follows, all the whole 9 yards, man.
Yeah, it was great. And if you haven't seen the movie, go and see it. And I think you will enjoy it. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah, so, we got 1 minute left. We're going to have the Dream Warriors play out. I want to thank each and every single one of you for watching. If somebody stayed here for the 2 hours with me, you're a true diehard John Grande fan, and I really goddamn love you. Yes, I am John Grande. This is my graveyard. This is my guest, Mr. Brandon Cancelleri. Thank you so much. Oh, he's going to have to take the headset off to give me the high five. But that is all for today. I will be back. I have spring break next week. But we'll totally be partying in spring break. It's going to be a lot of fun. But we will see you back on the 28th when we go through, me and Ryan Snyder go through Child's Play films. Too sweet. Peace, ladies and gentlemen.